Hey everyone, this is It's Locked to Look at Nancy Drew, and these are the questions that you asked me on Tumblr. Okay, my first question is from Anonymous, and they said, okay, I have 3 questions. 1, which games do you not have, if any? Have you created anything for the Nancy Drew fandom, like entering a contest? And have you read any of the books? Okay, so for your question of which games do I not have, if I don't have any, yes, there are a couple I don't have. I don't have physical copies of Danger on Deception Island, Creature of Capu, Ransom of the Seven Ships, I think it is. I'm sorry if I butcher some of these titles. I'm trying to remember them off the top of my head. And then, the Water's Edge, and then Tomb of the Lost Queen. I do have, technically, a copy of Ransom and, Water's Edge that my friend lent me, but I don't physically have the copies, and I kind of like having them for, like, collecting purposes. Okay, and then the next with, like, have I done anything, like, contest-wise or creating anything? I've never personally entered one of her interactive contests for Nancy Drew. I've always kind of thought about it, but I've never actually have. And I did create something. This is my Nancy Drew binder. I created this when I was in 9th grade. It has stuff about, like, the Nancy Drew books, like, from Wikipedia, like, I know it's hard to see, like, the list of all the books, lists of all the games, this one website that talks about collecting Nancy Drew books, and more importantly, this notebook that I've had forever, since I was probably 10, which is my Nancy Drew, like, ultimate cheat sheet for, like, games 1 through, I don't know, 25. I haven't played 26, but I'm assuming that's when they started with the phone hints that pretty much don't need walkthroughs for anymore. So, I mean, that's what I created, but I've never done, like, I know a while ago they had, like, a cake competition. I've never done anything like that. For your final question of have I read the books, yes, I have. I haven't read all of them because there's so many different Nancy Drew spin-off series, and there's so many books in each series. But I have read 1 through 15 of the original, and I mean original. I don't mean the Yellow Spine. I mean, like, 1930s versions, like these. This particular series is my favorite. This isn't obviously an actual 1930s copy. This is Applewood Books. A couple years ago did a mass reprint of the original, like, I don't know, 21 books before they were rewritten, and I have 1 through 15, and they're my favorite because that's, like, the real Nancy, in my opinion, because that is how her character was first started. I read a couple of the Yellow Spine books, but the Yellow Spine books are at least the first. I forget when they started rewriting them, but so, like, with the first couple Yellow books that are rewritten, the plots are different, they're shorter. Nancy's more delicate and tame, and instead of, like, I think an example, a book I was reading once described it as, like, in the 1930s, instead of Nancy spat at the man, it was like Nancy politely exclaimed, "I don't think so." So, major character difference. But and I read one of the Nancy Drew on Campus books. I know a lot of people who've read that series really don't like it. I don't love it, but I don't dislike it. I think of it more as like a what could have happened if Nancy went to college, not a, oh, Nancy went to college and this is what happened. That's how I think. I think it was kind of interesting to throw her in the college scenario, especially since I'm in college, so it's kind of interesting to see with Nancy being, you know, that year or 2 older and seeing how she interacts. So I liked that, but I wasn't sure how I felt about her breaking up with Ned. Spoiler alert, sorry if I just ruined somebody's day by saying that. So, oh yeah, and I read, like, one of the graphic novels, which I thought was pretty interesting. And I think I have some of the, Girl Detective, the series that started, like, in 2000, I think. So, Anonymous, I hope that answered your questions. Hold on, I'm reading the questions off my iTouch, and, you know, it locks itself, how appropriate it's locked. Okay, so then another anonymous person asked if I could be any character in the games other than, Nancy, Bess, George, the Hardy Brothers, Ned. Who would I be? If I could be anyone in that gaming universe, I would be Lucas from the Captive Curse because I find him adorable. I love his pranking because I like to prank people, but I don't really do it that often unless I know it's going to be a pretty good one. So I like that he has that pranking element and just like how he talks and how he interacts, especially his like thing with Carl. I think that's hysterical how he torments him. And I love when he's like, you walk in and he's like dressed up like the monster. I thought that scene was hysterical. And I mean, he gets to live in a castle in Germany. That's like my dream. Not very realistic, but that's one of my dreams. So I would say I would want to be Lucas. Okay, and I want a Coco Kringle, whose blog I love, said, are you in any other fandoms? Well, as of a couple months ago, I didn't know exactly what the word fandom was. I mean, I know it's pretty self-explanatory, but I hadn't been exposed to that word until really I got my Tumblr, which was in November, actually. I've actually had my Nancy Drew Tumblr since November. I just went on a hiatus from, like, Christmas to, I don't know, I think I picked this back up in, like, mid-March to early April. But other fandoms, at least, I guess I would say the ABC TV show Once Upon a Time. I love that show. If you like Disney or you like fairy tales and you haven't checked it out, I would. They have seasons 1 and 2 on Netflix. I think they're still on there, and they just wrapped up season 3. And let's see. I'm a Disney nerd, like a Nancy Drew nerd, except I probably know a little bit more Disney than I do Nancy Drew in some ways. But pretty much anything Disney with a special focus on Frozen. I know pretty much every other person in this world is obsessed with Frozen, but I think that's the beauty of it, is even though everyone says they can relate to it, there's so many different ways people can relate to it. Sorry, I got a text message. Speaking of Frozen. Anyway, my father, who's downstairs. Anyway, he knows I'm filming, and I think he was afraid he was going to interrupt, because this is my 3rd time filming because of interruptions and just computer works. But anyway, back to what I was saying. I'm so sorry. If you haven't noticed, I tend to talk fast, and I tend to ramble. But anyway, so, like, the Disney fandoms, and, like, especially Frozen. And they also asked, which characters do you love to ship the most? Okay, so with Nancy Drew, I really haven't thought of ships that much, other than the standard, like, Nedsy versus Francie. And so I ship both of them, if anyone really else does that, because I like how Ned and Nancy are like foil characters to each other. I think it's kind of an interesting spin of how Ned's the one that's always at home and Nancy's the one that's going out. But at the same time, I also like the idea of like Fred and Nancy being this really cool like sleuth detective extraordinaire couple. I think that'd be pretty cool. And I mean, if you read some of the book series have blatant hints that Frank has the hots for Nancy. So I think it's really interesting. So I don't know. I go back and forth because it's like, oh, I want Francie, but at the same time it's like, no, but I want to keep Nedsy. So it's a toss-up. It really is. And I really haven't thought too much of other people. I know there's that whole Colton and Zoe ship. I don't get it, to be quite honest. I'm not saying I dislike it. I'm not saying I love it. I just don't know how I feel about it as of current. So if any of you Clue Crew members want to persuade me, feel free. I'm open to pretty much any ship. So anyway, and then I want to Coco Kringle's next question is, if you could trade lives with any character for a day, who would you pick? Well, I know I said I would trade with Lucas, but if it was just for a day, I think I would do Maddie Jensen from Stay Tuned for Danger, because I always wondered when I was younger, and even kind of now, You know, what would it be like to act, even if it was just for a soap opera show? I think that would be pretty interesting. So for a day, I would probably do Maddie Jensen. Don't know if there's really anyone else. I mean, there's been characters that have interested me. I think, though, she would probably be the only one off the top of my head. Now, I'm pretty sure there's someone. Oh, I lied. Sonny June. I would love to see like what a day of his life would be. So that would be pretty interesting. All right, and then their last question is your favorite game and why. Okay, I'm gonna kind of make this short because I know when I was trying to film this earlier, it was like over half of my video. Okay, I have 3 favorites and 1 honorable mention. Okay, I know if you look on my Tumblr page, if you're on your computer, I have like an About Me section. It tells you how I got into Nancy. So, honorable mention for Secret of the Scarlet Hand being the game that like my first game. I know I played Secrets Can Kill, the original, first, but I was 7, I played it for 10 minutes, I freaked out at the intense music, thought the killer was going to kill me, took the game out, and kind of ignored it for the rest of the time I had borrowed it from the library. A couple years later, picked up Secret of the Scarlet Hand, thought it was interesting, did not know about that freaking glitch. So if you haven't played that game, there is a glitch. Look at it on Wikipedia or a walkthrough so you don't get stuck. Because it's one of those things, like, you have to call Prudence, but before you call Prudence, you have to do something else. Otherwise, you're never going to get the mold from her necklace, and you will be stuck forever, and you can't do anything. So that really bothered me. But anyway, 6 months later, after figuring that out, ta-da! I beat the game, so that's like an honorable mention, because although not a lot of people care for it because it's more educational, it holds this, it's like anyone's first game, it kind of holds a place to your heart. But my 3 actual favorite games are Message in a Haunted Mansion, Captive Curse, and Ghost of Thorn Hall. I like Message in a Haunted Mansion because, okay, if any of you really have like seen some of my posts, you know I'm obsessed with that mansion. I found the actual house that the game was modeled after, and it's for sale, and even though it's almost $500,000, I want it because it's beautiful. And that's the kind of house I've always wanted. So, you know, I love the Victorian era, I love their style houses, and I like the characters. And I like the cutscenes, like the seance scene, and I love like the little spook scares that they would put, like the blinking picture, the woman crying, and even though you find out, again, spoiler alert, that some of that was Abby, it's still cool, especially when like there's a mirror by her room, and I don't know how you trigger it. I think some of the stuff's just honestly random, but you can see its shadow going by like where the little like service stairs are. I thought that was pretty cool. So anyway, that's why I really like Message in a Haunted Mansion. And again, I had the Game Boy Advance game actually before I played the computer game, so I had that game for a while, so special place in my heart. So then, moving on to the Captive Curse, I loved that it was in Germany. When I found out that her next game for Nancy was going to be in Germany, I about flipped. Because I was born in Germany, I moved back to the States when I was like, I don't know, 15 months. I'm an American, I'm not a German citizen. My dad and mom were stationed over in Germany, so I was born on a military base. So, I've visited Germany a few times in parts of Europe. So, I love Germany. Like, if I had to move to a European country, it'd probably be Germany or Austria. And so I was so excited about that. I love the fact that it's in a castle. I loved all the characters. I love Carl's obsession with like the gaming and the action figures and how he says it's a multifunctional avatar. Oh my gosh, that man. And I loved that it was based off of like a medieval fairy tale-esque monster. I thought that was really cool. And then for Ghosts of Thornton Hall, again, that was like when I found out the plot when like her first like the trailer after the games for the next one. When I saw that one on YouTube, I was really excited because, as you can tell, my favorite games tend to have that supernatural element. So I was really excited, and I actually just got the game a couple weeks ago. It's one of those I'd been wanting to play it for so long, but I just never had the money, and now that I'm out of college and I'm not as broke, I could get it for half-price books for like $5. It was exciting. So I love the characters. Harper is definitely one of my favorite characters out of all of the Nancy Drew characters. I loved the backstory, and I loved that, like, you got more in-depth characterization, and you got to, like, know more about the characters' backstories in this game. I thought it was really cool, especially with the ending where they were saying, like, it's because of all of, like, the chemicals and everything from the fires making you see things. At the same time, you're like, did I really see that because of chemicals, or did I really see a ghost? I thought that was pretty cool, because it's, like, up for your interpretation. And I loved that you had 3 different endings that you could ultimately pick from. So that's why that game was my favorite, and sorry. And I know I'm, like, starting to run close to my time. And finally, my last couple questions, there we go, are from Hurricane Sunny, which, again, love your blog. Okay, so what character do I most relate to? The character that I probably most relate to, I would say, would be Bess. And, you know, especially after seeing her in Medallion, I can easily say Bess. Because, you know, prior to Medallion, we see her being Nancy's bubbly friend. You know, she's very well liked. She's described as being pretty and everything. And I'm not saying that's why I relate to her. But, we see her insecurities come out, and, you know, she, especially Medallion, we see that she's like, you know, George is great with this stuff, and Nancy, you're great at, like, everything. What am I good at? And I've been there, and, you know, I just thought it was great that her brought that out in the character, that everyone has their bad day, everybody has their insecurities, and they come out a lot, so I liked that. I feel like because of that, Bess is more relatable, because, I mean, I don't really relate to George at all, like, for anything. And Nancy, with some things, I guess, like my curiosity and wanting to help people, but I don't wear mom jeans. Sorry, Nancy, your style is sometimes questionable. And I'm not a kleptomaniac, and I don't say it's locked every time something is locked. I'm sorry, I just don't do it, even though my username is It's Locked. I just don't. Alright, sorry for my rambling. And then the next question is, what is my favorite quote? There was a good one. I forget what it is. I'm sorry, I should have written it so I could recite it, but it's in Renata. No, it's Anya. Sorry, I strike that. It's Anya talking about how a knight in shining armor didn't do anything for anyone, and talking about, like, that. It's like, you know, you want your man to, like, have tinted armor and stuff because it shows he's done stuff. I forget the exact quote, and I think it's Anya that said that. Was Anya Renata. Now I'm confusing myself in my brain, but it's been a while since I played that game. But I really like that quote, and pretty much anything Lulu the Parrot says from Curse of Blackmore. My friend and I I have, like, 2 friends at home that actually play Nancy Drew game, and my one friend and I constantly joke, you're gonna need a bigger boat. Felicity, the door, don't leave me, I love you. So anything Lulu says is pretty great. And what's my favorite thing about the Clue Crew? Well, I'm more of, like, a silent observer. I post things, I reblog things, but it's not like some fandoms where, like, for example, the Frozen fandom sometimes can be a bit cliquey. You see certain people always talking to each other, and not that that's wrong or anything, but I feel almost like it's a public clique with that stuff. But, like, with Nancy Drew, I feel like I could, even though I don't, I feel like I could talk to anyone. Everyone's very respectful of each other's opinions, like the Nedsy versus Francie. Instead of saying, oh my god, I can't believe you ship Francie, what is wrong with you? It's very like, I don't agree, but you know that you're entitled to your opinion. So I really like how polite and how open everyone is. So that would be my favorite thing about the Clue Crew. And finally, hold on, my iPod locked again. Favorite and least favorite game. Well, I already talked about my favorite games. My least favorite game, generally speaking, I like all of the games. I just couldn't get into Creature of Capoo. I almost completed it. I don't know if I ever technically did. I couldn't get into it. I thought it was interesting how you played as Nancy, but then you also played as the Hardy Boys. I thought that was cool. I liked that. I just couldn't get into it. I mean, Quigley was a cool character, but I just couldn't get into it.